Because there's time. So anyway, so everyone who's come gets a little discount voucher anyway. Okay, so have one. So this is 15% off. Sporting fee.
Thank you.
You can have one too.
Thank you very much.
That's all right. So, I mean, really, let's keep it nice and informal. I've got some stuff to talk about. The title of the presentation isn't quite the same one. It's got that there actually, but it was kind of. Go back. It was sort of. I was given sort of facts, fiction, and frequently asked questions. So I changed it slightly to facts in inverted commas because there aren't many facts. Fiction, there's a lot of fiction, so I'm not really said fiction. And there's lots of questions, so we'll deal with all of it as we go through it. What I'm really going to do is I'm going to talk about our approach, really, because that's the closest I can get to facts. And we'll kind of talk about some of the fiction, and we'll certainly go through some of the frequently asked questions, and you can fire any questions you want at me. If you've got questions, if you're always wanting to ask some questions about running shoes, you come to the saddest man in the world about running shoes, so I should know most things. Well, that's our business anyway. So just a few words about us to start with. So we're an independent business. We started in Putney in June 2011. We've got 2 shops, one in Putney, which is our first shop. We've got one in Richmond as well. This is the only selling shop, okay? But on that one. We just thought in the market there was a gap. You know, you've got some really specialist operations out there. Not that many of them these days actually. You've got some very specialist companies, and then you've got people like Sports Direct and the web. And there's not a lot in between. So that's why we set our business up. We thought, well, where's the passion for sport on the high street? Where is it? And the answer is, there isn't much of it, to be honest. Sports Direct is not a sports show, in my opinion. It's a pilot life selection. Very successful. I'd love to be as successful as Mike Ashley and have his bonus, but you know, it's not a sport. It's not sport the way I remember it. And I'm older than probably anyone else in this room. I'm sure I am. And I remember that most high streets used to have a really lovely little independent sports shop in the high street, and they don't anymore. And the reason is the world's changed. But we felt we could replicate that if we specialised as well, but we specialised in feet. So we can do most sports, but we specialise in feet. So hence, if you play tennis, you play netball, you play hockey. Swimming's the only one we can't really master. You need something on your feet normally. And it just makes sense to take a little bit of care over what you put on your feet. And a lot of people don't get that right, and it's one of the most common causes of injury, just for the wrong shoes for the wrong exercise. And if you siphon down into running, associated running, having the wrong shoes for running is probably the worst thing to do in any of the sports. So it's all about knowledge. It's old-fashioned stuff, really. Knowledge, service, advice. That's pretty hard to find these days. And to be honest, that's what's happening. The high street's changing. The shops that will survive are the ones that offer, there's a reason to go there. Knowledge, service, advice. Otherwise you can get it all on the web. Cheaper. So why would you get it on the high street? And we also felt that a lot of places had too many products. Just too many products. They kind of, if you go to Sports Direct, it's just overwhelming. It's just walls and walls of shoes. And if you've ever tried buying anything, it's, oh no, sorry, we haven't got your size. So that's no use whatsoever, is it? So if it's on our wall and it's not in a sale, we'll have it in every size. So we'll go from a small lady size, okay, you probably guess your size, but something like a size 4 in ladies to a size 9. In netball we go up to size 10, with all the half sizes in between. Because you've got to get the right size and the right width. Don't compromise on that, get the right one. Just because it might be cheaper, it's not right. And it'll come back to haunt you, basically. We know quite a bit about feet. We're not medically trained. We don't pretend to be, so we like to work with companies like this to send people to specialists if they need specialist care. 8 times out of 10, people just need to put the right things on their feet, and that will take care of quite a lot of it. But in some cases, of course, there's other stuff happening, and they need some help. And the other thing that we're very good at is just collecting information about other companies in the area who do similar things to us. So, like Physio4Life, for example, and the listeners. Okay, so that's us. So, as I say, facts, there aren't really any facts in running. There's lots of research, and it's like most things in life, you can have a piece of research to prove anything. So we've read all that, we understand it all, but we like to take a fairly practical approach and try to cut through all of that. So there's no rights or wrongs, essentially, and everyone's different. Everyone needs just a good sensible advice, in my opinion. There's lots of questions, so I've anticipated a few of them, because we get asked lots of questions all the time. So we'll go through a few of those, and if you've got some other ones, and you want to ask some really tricky questions, please do. And I'll do my best to cover them. So there's a few facts. Okay, that is one of them. So the feet are really complex. So if you actually break it down and look at how many bones there are in the body, how many joints there are in everyone's body, there's 206 bones in the body, 26 in each foot. So there's 20% of your bones are in your feet. Which is, well, more than 20% actually, which is a lot, isn't it? And the truth of the matter is, most of us don't use very many of them at all. So there is a sort of an argument that we probably should just remember there and come back. The body, there's two, the hands, we use the hands a lot. We use everything the hands were kind of designed to do. We definitely don't use the feet. The feet are nearly as good as the hands, and we don't use them. So the way we approach things is we do it, if you like, the conventional way, to start with. So I think the thing that we do probably better than most, and did from day one, was we use a foot scanner. So our piece of tech is a foot scanner. We don't use a treadmill, and we'll have a little debate about that in a minute as well. That's one of the frequently asked questions. We don't use a treadmill, but we use a foot scanner, and we do some natural tests, and we might watch you run outside on the pavement. So we'll come back to why we do that, but the truth is that there is quite a strong correlation between the shape of people's feet. What I mean by that is whether they've got what we call a regular normal arch, a high arch, or a medium, or a low sort of flat-ish foot, and how people run. Okay? Lots of people with very low arches overpronate. Does everybody understand what overpronation means? Probably. It's fairly well charted territory. If you look at me, I've got John Wayne legs, okay? You're probably not old enough to remember who John Wayne is, but my leg axis is quite obvious, and I've got feet like that, okay? So most people who do that have got feet a bit like that. Most people who do that have got feet a bit like that. And then obviously, if you're in the middle and you've got sort of what we call a regular arch, you could go either way, or you could be completely neutral. The truth is, there's about a 70% correlation there. So it's a really good idea to have a look at the feet, because there's a 70% correlation. But beware, okay? When you buy shoes online, you'll see some websites that there'll be a little symbol. It says, you've got feet like this, you need shoes like this. You've got feet like that, you need shoes like that. Rubbish. Absolute rubbish, okay? Because there's 30% chance that it's wrong. And that's quite a high percentage. So there's a correlation, definitely worth using, but it's not right enough other times to take it as read that that's the colour sheet. Okay? People will go either way. We definitely see people with high arches who overpronate. We definitely see people with low arches who are completely neutral. Because there's too much going on. The feet are a good indicator there's too much else going on. So we foot scan, and that's probably the most useful thing we do, and then we do some manual tests. And there's a lot of good running shops out there who do what's called natural gait testing rather than treadmill. We will come back to that. But almost as important, once you've decided what type of shoe people need, is to get this bit right. Get the size and the width right. And a lot of people ignore that, and actually almost, it's probably just as important, I would say. If you have the wrong shoe, in the right size and the right fit, it'll be okay. If you have the right shoe in the wrong size and the wrong fit, it won't be okay. If that makes sense. Ideally, you need to get both of them, of course. Okay? So because we look at people's feet, we've got half a chance of getting that right. A lot of places don't even look at your feet, which is a bit of an oversight, I think. Just as a little guide, most people wear shoes that are too small for them. So, and most people don't know what size feet they've got either. Why would you? I mean, you might have, when was the last time you went to class, an accurate measure when you were a kid, probably. And most people have got one foot longer than the other. So all these things, can have a major impact on getting the size right or wrong. So most people get it wrong. And ladies like to, forgive me, don't like to have big shoes. They like to have small feet. They think it looks nicer. With a running shoe, you have to forget all that. It's got to be, generally speaking, half size bigger for a lady, a whole size bigger for a man than what you think your regular size is. The trouble is you don't know what your regular size is anyway. Okay, so that's a few facts, a couple more. There's lots and lots of complex stuff going on in running shoes. I've got a little selection of stuff, and they're sort of graded from very little technology to a lot more technology. We've already been through a little bit of this already. But if we just take a classic running shoe, this is the ladies' version of what you've got on your feet there. The Asics 1002, which is a very decent, not entry level, sort of mid to high end running shoe. Okay, so there's lots of things going on in running shoes, and obviously every brand has this kind of stuff, but they all have their own proprietary versions of it. But just to give you, these are 1, 2, 3, the 5 things it's 4 things that I would say are most important about a running shoe. First is the stability, as such. We call it support. So if you overpronate, you may need some support. It's generally this piece in the middle of the shoe. It's called a medial post. It's harder than the other one. It sits up underneath the arch and it just supports the arch and just stops. It's like a barrier to stopping any inward motion. Okay, to stop that overpronation. So, do you need any support? Yes or no? And if you do, then that's the main way of doing it. The other thing is they have this bridge underneath most shoes. Different manufacturers do it slightly different. You'll see it. There's a bridge. Tennis shoes even got it. It's called a midfoot. Whoops. It's called torsion control, really, but it's a midfoot stabiliser. It's different to that. Okay, so that's in there as well. So all of these things, and then you often get these external heel counters. This is a great example of a tennis shoe. So it's just giving you stability. So it's just holding the shoe stable. That's a very nice lightweight shoe. Not really much stability about that. It's a lightweight Nike shoe. Okay, actually it is an overpronator shoe as well. It has got their version of that, but a very light version. Second thing, probably the most important thing of all, is shock absorption. So when you run, you've got about 3 times your body weight going through your legs. So obviously how big you are has an impact on that, because it's 3 times whatever your weight is. Your bones and your ligaments, subject to lots of training and all the rest of your bones, are probably the same density, more or less. So the heavier you are, the bigger you are, the tougher it is to run. That's why all the distance runners are little skinny people, because they've got less body weight going through the same ligaments and bones, essentially. So you would be an excellent runner. I'm sure you are, but you would be an excellent runner. Okay? So, but we all need some help with it. Or do we? That's the question. Let's just assume for 1 minute we do. Then shock absorption. So they all use this stuff, generally, which is called EVA rubber. So it's just basically very lightweight rubber, designed to deal with impact. By the way, don't keep shoes in the boot of your car, because it's temperature sensitive. So if you leave them in the shoes in the boot overnight in the winter, this stuff gets hard. So it's no longer doing what it should do. So just keep it at regular room temperature, really. So there's EVA, and then there's the cushioning system. So gel in the case of Asics, air in the case of Nike, DNA, which is really complex stuff, non-Newtonian liquid, so it just thickens when you put pressure on it. So they've all got their own stuff. They've all tried to patent it. Some of them have, and some of them haven't. The idea is that's an even better way of absorbing that impact. Comfort. So the better brands are getting rid of all the joints and stitching and so on, just to make it really, really comfortable. Lacing design can have quite an impact on that, so comfort's really important as well. And then performance. They've all got these grooves. That's why we're looking at the tread pattern. The tread pattern is light and with lots of little grooves in it to help you be flexible where you need it and move forward in a straight line. Usually forwards, could be backwards. And the other thing is they change it every year. Okay, so just because you have that shoe this year, next year when you go to change it, they will have changed it. Not much in practice, but enough sometimes to make a difference. So it's worth checking. Sometimes the size will have changed as well. It's not always the same. So these are the facts. And then the other one is really, this issue that the no tissues are the same. So every brand's different. It's worth trying them all to find the one you like. If you find the one you like, fantastic. Often worth sticking with it. But year over year, they change it. So we have lots of examples of where an Asics shoe changes, and the size changes year over year. But just because you were a size 7 last year, you might not be a 7 this year, or size 4 or 9, whatever. So it's worth trying it on. Okay?
So do you recommend changing shoes every year? Is that?
Yeah, that's one of the frequently asked questions.
Okay.
The answer is kind of 500 miles or so, is what we say. Some manufacturers are quite stingy and want you to change your shoes more often than that. None of them say more than that, actually, but we reckon it's about 500 miles. If you think about it, for an average runner running a couple of times a week, they're probably going to get up 2 to 3 times a week. They're definitely going to do 10 miles a week. 10 miles a week for a year is 500 miles. So if you're an average-ish runner in terms of the amount you do, it's probably at least once a year. It's worth checking it once a year. If you come to a reputable business like us, we'll have a look at the shoes. If we think the shoes are still okay for a month or two, we'll tell you. Okay, but about 500 miles back a year. If you run lots, you'll go through them faster than that. So it could be, you know, we have people who go through 4 or 5 pairs a year. Again, if you rotate shoes, they'll last longer as well, so we'll come back to it. But this is probably the one thing I want to leave you with today, really, is this is probably the area where all the research eventually, more or less, agrees. Okay, it's probably the only area, and that's what we call mix it up. And that isn't me trying to stand here saying buy lots of shoes, but it's saying that concept of mix it up really makes sense. So, at a broad level, if you run, you know, maybe do something else as well. So don't only run. You know, if you could swim or cycle or play tennis, you know, great to keep your body guessing and do different things. If you do too much of one thing, body gets lazy and tends to get injured. Okay, so at a broad level, you know, it's great to be active and do lots of stuff. And if you did want to be active every day, you definitely should do something different because you're exercising different muscle groups. Definitely shouldn't run every day. Not in this area, in this world. You know, in the less developed world, in the the guys who've grown up running every day, that's what they do, and that's what their body's trained to do. So they run to school every day, so consequently they can run every day. But most of us in the Western world can't run every day. Our bodies are not built for it. And it's certainly better to mix it up a bit. So if you only run every other day. If you do other activity, fantastic. Go for a swim, cycle, do something else. But if you only run, then don't run every day and try and run differently. Run some long distance. One day run a longer distance. Next other day maybe run a shorter distance. Run faster, run slower. Run on different surfaces. Do a bit of treadmill. Do a bit of road. Do a bit of off-road. Okay. And then consequently, if you are going to do that, it may make sense to have the right shoes, I think it does, for each of those activities. So it's a simple concept, mix it up. So if you only have one pair of shoes, you should have, like you've all got there, essentially, a road running shoe. Because they're the ones that come in the most shapes and sizes. So you can customise that to you the best. So that's the ones you should do most of your mileage in, your high mileage, and be the general default shoe. That's the pair of shoes probably to take on holiday, etc., etc. Okay? But go to a specialist like us to get that chosen right. Okay? Then, if you want to have a second pair of shoes, my general recommendation would be have a trail pair of shoes. That's an off-road running shoe. So it will work really well in the winter. Differences are grip. So it's more aggressive, the grip on that, because you're running off-road, so you need a bit more tread. Waterproofing. That's not waterproof at all, it'll let all the water in. That's got a waterproofing element on it. Some shoes that we sell have got Gore-Tex upper, so they'll let virtually no water in, theoretically. Unless you're trying to puddle it, it will go over the top. By the way, really good trail runners would never run in Gore-Tex because they will expect to get wet feet. And Gore-Tex doesn't let it in, doesn't let it out either. But for most people, Gore-Tex is a good winter shoe. And they're just a little bit sturdier as well, so that the idea is that you're running on uneven surfaces, you might snag it in bushes and so on and so forth. So if you're going to have a second pair of shoes, I would say have one of those. So it's great for off-road, really good in winter, and then those two shoes will last twice as long. So they'll both last 500 miles, but you'll do 1,000 miles before you have to change either. If you then had if you had another pair of shoes, well, you know, the third probably most likely pair of shoes is a racing shoe. So the racing shoe, I should pass them around really. That's the classic road running shoe, like you've got there. That's your trail shoe. This is a racing shoe. Main difference, much lighter. Much lighter. So, if you run a 5k or 10k, depends how good a runner you are, but let's assume it's a 5k, 10k race. You might do all your training in that, and then pop that one on for race day. Do your 5k race in that, you'll run faster, because it's lighter. But don't do all your training in that, because it won't give you the support and cushioning that you need most of the time every day.
And you shouldn't adjust your style, like if you're doing hill strike or mid-foot, you just run the same as...
I would say so. I mean, it's not too extreme, that one. That's the DS Racer from ASICS. That's got a little bit of support as well. No, if you start messing around too much with that without being taught, then you're asking for trouble.
Often people end up with flat feet, don't they? So you wear race shoes around too much, and just like you'll often see people walking around in them just because they're comfortable, and they don't realise.
No, it's like if you ever walk behind a lady wearing a pair of Uggs, you know, you see what's going on.
Yeah.
This also won't last as long. You know, it's not built to last. That one's built to last 500 miles. The trail shoe probably lasts a bit longer than that. This will last 250, 300 miles. It's not as robust. I mean, it can't be. It's lighter. It's made of lighter weight materials. It's more flimsy.
I used to have the step 3 when I was training a lot. I
Yep.
had the New Balance like 1060s
Yep.
that were
Yep,
real
which is your
solid,
That's it.
big, and
Yep.
then like a New Balance, I don't know, like a 735 or
Yep.
something, you know,
Yep.
and then a
Perfect.
race shoe
There you
for
go. Yeah.
5K.
There you go, exactly. And they'll all last a bit longer.
Yeah, on the marathon start line, you can
Yeah.
see all the elite runners.
That's right.
In very, very thin shoes. And
Yeah.
I'm looking at
Correct.
them,
Yeah.
where's the support for
Yeah,
the
yeah,
heel?
correct. Because they don't
Obviously,
need it.
They don't need it, they're just racing it.
So so a very, very good runner might run a marathon in that one. They're more likely to run a marathon in another shoe that we stock, which is called the Adidas Boston, Adios Boston, which is just a slightly more cushioned shoe than that, but it's certainly a lot less cushioned than that. But you're right, and you have to be careful. You know, most people should run a marathon in that because it's a long way. You know, I'd say most people should run a half marathon. But once you start getting to 5k, 10k, and you're reasonably competent, yes, you could try a lighter shoe. You will run faster.
And they are lighter as well, aren't they? I mean,
Yeah.
a pro runner
Yes.
body weight would be lighter.
Correct. And he'll be more efficient probably as well, he or she. These, right, so the other thing I should say, they're lighter, but the other main difference with these, and this is where we stray into the area of, we often get people in the shop saying, well, what's the difference between a natural and neutral shoe? We haven't really talked about that, but the neutral side is obviously either you're neutral or you overprint it. The other main difference is they're flat. They used to be called, sometimes are called racing flats. So, I don't want to bore you all, but there's a lot of debate about how high the heel should be, as to whether that encourages heel striking, whether you want to get away from that. It's one of the areas where there isn't a lot of research, I'm afraid. There's lots of research for people who are against heel striking, who will say, look at all these injuries that are caused by heel striking, and then if you look at the opposite research for the whole barefoot area, there is a school of thought that says you just swap one set of injuries for another. I mean, the proviso is, if you want to run, we'll go to barefoot in a minute, if you want to think about that, you can't just change your shoes. You've got to change some other things as well. But yeah, this is basically 10 mil. So the difference between the heel height and the forefoot height is called the drop. It's quite a common terminology in running shoes. Most conventional running shoes are 10 or 12 millimetre. Okay? So something like this is 5, much flatter. So we encourage you to land further forward, and those better runners will do that naturally anyway. Sprinters all go on the forefoot. All right. So for most people, those would be the 3 shoes they might need. The other one I'd add in is potentially, obviously, if you play other sports, you need shoes for different sports. If you want something you can do everything in, I know it looks clunky, that is a cross trainer. So we sell a lot of these to people who are not really avid runners. They just want to go to the gym, maybe do a bit of running, maybe play tennis. So do that. At least if you're going to do that, there is no one perfect shoe for everything. Of course there isn't. But if you're going to compromise with the right shoe. Something like that.
How much are those normally? Those kind of
The cross trainer?
Yeah.
All of these? I mean, okay, just in general, a good road running shoe will cost you about 100 quid. That particular one is the Kayano, which is a top of the range cushioning support shoe, 130 quid. A good running shoe should cost you about 100 quid. But will last you a year. It's not bad. A racing shoe will cost you about 60, 70 quid. A trail shoe is usually a bit cheaper, about 85 quid. Can be more. You can always pay more, can't you? But on average, 85, 90 quid, less than the road running shoe. This is the interesting one, barefoot shoes. Some of them cost more than the regular shoes. That's just bizarre, because you're taking all the technology out where you should be. You may be replacing with some interesting other technologies, but generally there's less in it. So why is it more expensive? So we like this one because it's 80 quid. The cross trainer is about 75 quid. So generally the road, it makes sense. The road running shoe that you do most of your running, it would be the more expensive shoe. And that's the one that probably lasts longer as well. Okay. So we'll hold this one up when we do this bit now. So this is our most frequently asked. Well, actually, how long does the shoe last? It's probably the most frequently asked question.
I was going to ask this as well.
Good. Well, here we go. Hopefully, I haven't anticipated all of them. Yeah. Do you want anyone to ask me any questions about anyone to sort of give me their theories on this, or because we've all read lots about it. What Born to Run? Everyone read Born to Run? Some people read Born to Run. Interesting book. You should definitely read it.
I know you were saying how you were saying like 500 miles.
Yeah.
Before you change.
Yeah.
But how would you obviously know? Because obviously some people might not like
track it.
Yeah. So how would you be able to feel it to know that
yes.
you?
Yeah. I mean, if you run, a lot of runners will track it. So you'll have a simple or a complex watch like this, and most runners do keep a log of how much they run because we're a bit sad like that. We do. It's interesting. You know? I still keep a book rather than I do keep it. I do download. But I like to have a book. So most people do know the answer, to be honest. But if you don't, it's just a simple one. Do you run 2 or 3 times a week? Yes. And reasonably consistently, yes. Then about a year, once a year. But yeah, by all means, bring it in and we'll have a look. And if it's still fine, we'll tell you. Okay. So yeah, this one is the second most frequently asked question. Anybody want to say anything about barefoot running before we crack into it? No.
In terms of
just what they think really. I'll give you our perspective happily.
Well, I think the theory goes that
hand this one out.
one argument goes that if you stride midfoot, anywhere between midfoot and front foot, maybe somewhere in that region, then one theory is that the heel injuries you mentioned earlier, you're preventing those.
Yes.
And if you're running without any shoe, like in the forest and stuff, there's a guy, an ultra runner, who runs with no shoes.
Yes.
Although I think now, because you've got so many cuts and especially wearing the shoes, something like that.
Something like that. Bit of a glove.
And you can last a lot longer. It's healthier for your feet.
Yes.
It's a more natural way.
I'm not going to disagree with any of that, to be honest with you, because it all makes perfect sense, doesn't it? We go back to what we said about the feet. The problem is, we, pretty much all were brought up wearing shoes from the age of 2 or 3, walking on pavements. We don't live in a more natural environment where we can walk around barefoot all the time. I would positively encourage people to do that more often when they can. When you walk around on the beach, on holiday barefoot, it feels good. Your feet are much more capable than we give them credit for. I like those. I wouldn't dream of running much in those. I use them in the gym and I walk in them sometimes, and my feet feel better in them sometimes. So I like, I think it's great to get those feet working for. And I think if you've got strong feet, you will be better running. That's probably, in a nutshell, our perspective on it. But it's an interesting one because it's not a huge section of the market. It really isn't. And some people think the bubble's burst. That this is it was very trendy for a while and that's kind of gone. It hasn't gone, but it's a small segment of the market. So we will stock a couple of these types of shoes. This one is our best selling shoe. This is a great shoe, it's 80 quid. It's called New Balance Minimus. Does everyone have a look at it? It's a really great shoe. There's not a lot to it, it's like a glove. It's not nothing. It's 4 mil, go back to that drop issue. Can you wear running shoes for other sports? Been through that one, not really. I've been in running shoes shops where people have said, can I wear this for squash? And of course they're running shoes, they've only got running shoes, and they've said yes. It's just so dangerous. And that's our USP, no. The answer is no, not really. If you want to get injured, maybe. If you play tennis once or twice on holiday, alright, maybe. Doing relative. But I'll tell you what, you'll smash those pieces anyway. And you'll get a sore feet, come on. So, it doesn't really make sense. Blisters, that's an interesting one. You get a lot of people in with blisters. What causes blisters? It's quite complex, blisters. It's usually caused by wrong shoes, wrong size, wrong width. A lot of people wear double layer socks, which we sell. But normally we ask people, where's your blister? If they come in and say, I've got blisters, can I have those double layer socks? But if you put double layer socks in the wrong shoe, wrong size, it's still going to have blisters. So, generally speaking, if you've got the right shoes on, the right fit, and a nice pair of little running socks, you're probably not going to get blisters. Dual layer socks can help, but not really, not usually. Unless you just have a constant niggle that's always there, and the double layer socks will help. This is quite an interesting one: treadmill versus natural gait testing. A bit careful what I say because it's a treadmill, obviously. We think that unless you run on a treadmill all the time, that's all you do, and there's no point looking at how you run on a treadmill. Because the ground's moving, and you're running on it for about, usually in a running shop, 10-20 seconds. It leaves more questions than answers. It's a very simple thing that they do in a running shop on a treadmill. They're looking at the level of support of the shoes. Clever, but is so marginal and so short, and also arguably not right. The other thing is you're running, somebody's watching you. So you're probably running like you think you should run rather than how you actually run. And English is different. I mean, if you've never run on a treadmill before, when the ground starts moving, different style. So that's our opinion. So we prefer not to. If you only run on a treadmill, then of course that's helpful. But in our experience, most people don't. They might run on a treadmill once a week, and the other, oh, that's a good idea. Again, mix up a bit. Some treadmill, some road. Generally, they're running on harder surfaces. That's better to do that way. Yeah. Any more? What have I covered?
Interesting what you said earlier about the foot size. You said men one size more, women half
generally.
That's thrown me a little bit.
Okay, so let's put your shoes on. I'd like to just see. Carry on.
I'm size 11.
Stand up.
To go for size 12 running shoes.
Yeah, or 11 and a half. I just want to test whether people are in the right size shoes. Okay. That's pretty good, but your foot here is bigger than that one. So I'd say you're okay. And you've got tiny feet. So you'll probably be in kids' shoes, which is all right probably for somebody of your weight. But yeah, you need about half a thumb between the end of the toe and the end of the shoe. Can you feel you've got more in that size than that size? So like I said, a lot of people have got. Same with you. You've got loads of room in that one, not quite as much in there. I'd say it's pretty good. I didn't buy shoes from us, did you?
No, I didn't.
Thought you might have. Right, you've got the right. When you've got the right type, hopefully you're in a light support shoe.
Sure.
Slight overpronated shoe, but the size is pretty good there. Right, these are much too small. Your foot's there. It's even too small on that side. You're very slightly big on your left and the right, but you're right on the edge.
So all my shoes, running shoes, are this size as well. So they do feel a bit tight.
Yeah, is that an 11?
Yeah.
And you're normally about 11.
Yeah.
So you should have 11.5 to 12. 11.5 does exist.
Okay.
What we would do is we would try you in a 12. Because when you've got feet as big as that, you probably do need that whole size up. But if if 11.5's right, 11.5's right. It's one size we don't stock a lot of, to be honest with you, because we get a business that we have every single size. So we tend to, and there is no half size between 12 and 13 in most manufacturers anyway. So 11.5 is the largest half size. What we do with you is we'll check a 12. Actually, some 11s might be right for you as well. Some manufacturer brands will come up bigger than others. Nike, in my experience, are a little bit more generous than some others. So
I think it's
almost certainly need
good for me to look into, because one for definitely half the size.
Yeah, that's really common. So not too bad. You two are both in the right size shoes. Yours are too small. Let's go. I know you are, but let's do you anyway. You've got running shoes on them?
No.
These are just for training.
Yeah. So I mean, for running, I'd say they were too small as well.
I got mine from Sport and Feet anyway.
Yeah, so they should be right. And if they were too small, yeah, I should have asked that question first. The customer is always right. So we do have this debate with customers a lot, and it is more often, I have to say, women than men. Men will normally say, fine, okay, I think that's right, that's fine. Ladies will say, I've never had a size 7 in my life. I can't get a size 7.
Probably why I have problems with these running. I actually don't run in these.
Yeah.
They didn't feel right.
Yeah. Yeah, just a little bit more. Basically what happens is your feet swell a bit when you exercise. So you've got to have some room to swell in, too. If that doesn't sound so a bit ridiculous. It's quite a good idea to go for a run and then go to the running shop. We don't mind sweaty feet, that's part of the job. But it's quite a good idea to do that, really, because when you go in, your feet are up there, most swollen, if you like to call it that. The other thing that should happen, to go back to it, at some point you should be on the forefoot. So you're going to be ramming up against the toes, and if you're too close to the toes, it will hurt. And you'll lose toenails, and you'll get black in toenails. So you'll just get sore toenails, basically, no matter how much you cut them.
What would you wear for just walking around, or the shops, or the office? Like what would you wear? Running shoes, or?
Luckily, now I can, because I spent all of my years, working in advertising. Actually, so I was always a bit on the desk. I think I'd probably mix it up a bit, really. I wouldn't wear running shoes all the time, but if you go on holiday and you're going to walk around New York or London, I'd probably be in a pair of running shoes for the amount of running, for the most of the day. Because it's tiring, your feet. Running shoes are quite breathe. Sure. You've got the right level of support, the right level of cushioning. They're quite comfortable to wear. It's one of the issues that we do see a lot is when people, to some extent, might need an orthotic, like we talked about before. they'll be looking at it for the running shoe, but actually they spend 70% of the time in the day shoe, which has very little support and very little cushioning, so their feet get sore and they do a lot of walking. So having some kind of little orthotic in those kind of shoes can make sense. But yeah, I think a running shoe is, we actually sell quite a lot of running shoes for walking, because again they come in more shapes and sizes than anything else. You can customise it much more to anyone, to your personal needs, and it's comfortable walking. It's one direction walking, so why not? We sell loads of trail shoes, walk the dog shoes as we call them. We just want to go out on the countryside walk, something that's comfortable, lightweight and waterproof.
Do you have anything for the smart casual user? So someone that wants to wear smart casual clothes,
yes, we do.
A trainer with a formal shoe.
Two options there. We stock a couple of walking shoes made by brands like Brooks and Asics, and or in the classic Asics shoes and a couple of Brooks ones, you can order them in black. We sell a load of those for commuters, or people who can just get away with wearing a running shoe, but it looks a bit silly if you've got a shoe like this. So you just need a black one. So the great news is the top 4 Asics running shoes are all made in black, and no one wants the black ones, so they've always got them in stock. So we'll try you in the other one and just order a black one, and we'll charge you 10% of the list price because we don't have it in stock. So that's quite popular, and that's sort of little known fact really. You can get it in black. Okay. So my little conclusion. Any other questions? I'm very happy to.
And I can see that there are different types like this for children's.
Yes, we do. Yeah.
Oh, is it?
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. So work for you, no problem. And kids. Yeah, no, we have a great, after running, probably kids is our second best. Usually a great idea. But if someone's quite small, like yourself, probably right. Our final conclusions then. Everyone's different. These are obvious. Everyone's different. So it's worth just taking a bit of time over getting the right footwear in my opinion. If you find something, take care to find the ideal shoes, or just spend a bit of time over it. Definitely makes a difference. It's one of the things that makes me really happy, is that I know that because we think we can do a better job than most people. Stick with what works. If you find a shoe that's really good, and especially if you've got an injury history, you probably should stick with it. And so we have a lot of customers who come to mix it up a bit in general, especially in running, but in every activity really. And we could separate presentation in its own right really, but every sport is different in terms of the biomechanical requirements of placing on the body, which in itself is a good thing, because it was going back to that point of do mix it up a bit. But if you do other activities, it makes sense to get the right shoe. The most common one we see is ladies who play netball, and they mostly all play in a running shoe. And the most common form of injury in netball is ankle injuries, and that's because they're playing in changing direction and playing in a running shoe. So that's changing. And, a lot of people who play decent level do play in a running shoe. And it's just a big mistake, really. It doesn't last very long to get injured. Netball shoes. Yeah. So I didn't bring one today, but there's something called a netball shoe, which sort of sits between the tennis shoe and the running shoe. We sell quite a lot of netball shoes. Actually, netball shoes make a really good cross trainer, because they're quite mesh based, but they've got all the ankle support, better grip, etc., etc. So a netball shoe makes the best all-round shoe in my opinion.
What about hockey players on AstroTurf?
Yep.
What would they wear?
Hockey shoes. We sell those too. So that's more about grip, but it's also about multi-directional movement as well. So brands that's the beauty of this brand actually, and to some extent Adidas as well, we work with, but Asics is probably the best all-round, all-sport brand. So they make obviously running shoes, and they're the market leader in running shoes, but they make netball shoes. They're almost the only manufacturer of these netball shoes. They're very big in hockey. They make cricket shoes. Rugby, they're pretty good in rugby these days. Football. Not football. It's the one sport they can't compete with Nike and Adidas in, so they don't bother. They make some great rugby goods. Tennis. Yeah, you actually see quite a lot of people, if you do watch a bit of Wimbledon, are starting to play in Asics tennis shoes. Asics. I'm a bit biased, but I think Asics make the best shoes all around, really. It's their cushion system, this proprietary gel stuff is brilliant. It's very effective. And if you put that into netball shoes and tennis shoes, it makes those shoes a bit lighter. So these, great though this is the Putney Tennis Club main shoe. Yeah, it's great. You're not going to get any ankle injuries on that. You're definitely going to move around the court effectively, but you might be a bit slow because it's bloody hell. So if you can have a slightly lighter thing that does the same kind of things, more comfortable, even better. But you know, for people my age group, sadly these days, and older, probably that's the perfect tennis shoe. It's just going to stop you getting injured. And if you're injured, you can't do anything. And that's depressing. Alright, I think that's it. Unless anyone's got any more questions. You've all got discount vouchers, so do come and see us if you want. How many? I think you can get 15% on that, even an extra 5. Okay. And that's it from me.
Thank you.
Anyone's got
Thanks
any other
very much.
questions?
Very helpful.
Thank you so
Thank
much.
you very much.
We're open 7 days a week, I'd like to say, and we're in Cutlery.